Living in my head, sun came in, I'll close the blinds. Could feel it in the air. This is just a waste of time. No one really cares. But then you came across my mind, got me out of there. So I went down to the river and swam till the panic was over. Yes, I went down to the river, watched all the heavy rain. I watched all the heavy feeling all the noise in here. It's become an ache. Pull me into calm and deep and take me out to the waves. Cause I feel like a waste of space, breathing in the air. But you hold me like I might just break, like you want me there. So I went down to the river and swam till the panic was over. Yes, I went down to the river, watched all the heavy rain. I watched all the heavy
I don't wanna have to wait for another moment like this. You'll just have to learn from my mistakes. You don't know the half of it. I wish I could slow down these thoughts in my head. Have I been misread? Will the world pass by if I can't hold on? What should I do when I don't feel strong? I just wanna be here for now. What if I let go and just lose control? How do I find out what means the most? I just wanna be here for now. What do I do? How do I stay here? Gotta find you before it all disappears. What do I do? What do I do? I'm feeling like a soul out of body, stuck on the outside looking in. When I slow down, I wonder if I'll be stumbling around waiting for the end. If our sky doesn't have a limit, then there won't need to be a finish. I wanna be in the life I'm living. Maybe I'm already winning.
Tinsley sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzel FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3 far wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are going wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordy Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they are going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh,
Get your foot there. He's got it. He's got it.
Canvas is going to win.
As the marches of... let's try it again. Take two. As the madness of March rolls along, so does the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. We're back at another super speedway, and the unpredictability is going to continue to rise throughout the 100 laps here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway from Hampton, Georgia. Glad to have you with us here on FTF. It's race number 3, round 1 of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, Caleb Hoffman with you, Justin Melillo in the fan zone for us. And as you can tell, I haven't done this in a while. Knocked the rust off there in the first 2 words of the opening monologue. And, yeah, you know, it is what it is. But, James, here we are at Atlanta. Super Speedway edition this time around. Last year we were on the 1.5-mile bumpy version. Now we're on the fast track. And it's going to shake things up a little bit because really... this is the first time around where the drivers have been able to use this in the schedule.
Yeah, it's the first really professional week, per se, for eNASCAR at the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. This track was released in July of last year in advance of the second race of the season, but it was the old Atlanta that was on the schedules for the Coke Series and the qualifying series last year. So this is the qualifying series' first crack across all splits at this place. And if there's anything that I learned from Tuesday night's race in the Coke Series, it's that this place races like a brand new racetrack in the sense that it feels like you have new pavement and tire wear really feels like the only thing that matters all that much. We can talk about the plate racing dynamics, but when we consider that most drivers in the field on Tuesday night were able to make it 70 laps on tires, to me, I think it means that tires and fuel aren't really going to matter all that much here unless things sort of play out in a funky way, just the way the caution space out. I think what will matter is how you execute within the draft, how you race this track, especially relative to the other trucks around you, and whether or not you decide to play the role of a Kansas or an Alabama where you stomp who you should and end up taking good points here, or if we see somebody come through like Princeton and get big points that they probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The key here is to just not end up like Arizona and lay and complete and total egg. Sorry, spoilers for those who haven't been paying attention to that world. I guess I should have said that on the front end. But that's the key, I think, tonight, especially if you're high in points. Just don't end up in a position where this race has to be your drop.
Now, Caleb, we saw NASCAR make a change in this last week for this race coming up this weekend where they moved the commitment line for pit road from the exit of turn number 4, where we traditionally see it, to the entrance of turn number 3 in an effort. If they have to pit under green, it'll get them slowed down and it hopefully will involve less chaos. On iRacing, though, that commitment line is over on the exit of turn 4. If we ever have to make green flag pit stops in this race, it's going to be hectic.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so easy to come into a super speedway track like this and, guarantee that we'll have, X amount of cautions, a big one, a flip thrown in there somewhere. But the thing with top split is you never know. I mean, there is a world, a possibility where we could go wire to wire. And if you haven't been practicing your green flag pit stops, again, it's so difficult when you're coming out of the pack. Trying to get down to pit road speed, it's so difficult to have a full round of clean stops. So you got to make sure that you're practiced on that front, because if you ever need it, it will bite you if you haven't.
Let's take a look at our starting grid for tonight's race here from Atlanta. Starting on pole, Joel Blewett. And hopefully, unlike Arizona, he will not blow it throughout the rest of the race, as I'm sure the audience at home groans along. Agnell Phillips starts from second. Dominic Lukomsky starts third. Eric Royce fourth. Jake Matheson fifth. Larry Pace, the winner from Daytona, he starts from the sixth position. Michael P. Frisch starts seventh. Andrew Navarro starts eighth. Brian Mercurio will start P number 9. Zach Nichols will round out our top 10. 10.
Daniel Botafuco rolls off from the 11th position. 12th is where you'll find Seth the Merchant. Kenny Humpy, winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series once upon a time, way back. 13th on the grid. Joseph starts 14th. Cody Terlindi rolls off from the 15th position. 16th is where you'll find James Holzer. Boyd Hogan starts 17th. 18th on the grid belongs to Sean English. Four-time Ray Alfalo starts 19th. Casey Tucker rounds out the top 20 on the grid.
Yeah, looking back here at row 11, it's going to be Casey Tucker starting alongside the two-truck of Logan Clampett, last week's winner, and top split. Briar LaPrade starts off 22nd position with Christopher Pfeffer right next to him. Dalton Collins in the 24th position, and Matt Danson in 25th. You have Alex McCollum in 26th, Clayton Hoffman starting alongside him in 27th, Steele Lankford in 28th, Brad Mahar in 29th, and rounding out row 15 is Eduardo Oliveira.
Rest of your field, Blaze Crawford, Joel Smith, Blake McCandless, Jake Nichols, Drew Freinage. Blake is starting at the back. He didn't qualify. He's also going to be our in-race supporter once again, and we'll hit him quickly before we drop the green flag. And Blake, here we go. From Atlanta, Super Speedway edition. What's the plan from back in traffic?
Well, yeah, I think you said it best, back in traffic. I think there's kind of two places you want to be. You either want to be in the very front or very back, and, well, we're in the very back. So I think we kind of stay patient here, get what comes to us, and, hopefully, assuming that we get green flag pit stops, which I think with this field we can, got to execute getting on a pit road, and after that, we'll just see where we stack up, and hopefully, like Daytona, we'll be there at the end.
All right, Blake, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you in a little bit.
Thank you, Jacob.
That's Blake McCandless, who is running once again. He's not running for points. He's just here to have fun and race on the plate track similar to what he did at Daytona. Joel Blewett, Agnell Phillip on the front row for the start of race number 3 of the eNASCAR Qualifying iRacing Series. Green flag is in the air. We're racing from Atlanta. The field up to just about full speed at the line. Give the lead to Agnell Phillip with the help from Eric Royce on the high side of the racetrack. Side by side for second as the field makes their way back through turns 1 and 2. Really, 4 trucks lined up on the outside, a bunch more lined up on the bottom.
2 by 2 by 2. We haven't seen anyone get super adventurous and go 3 wide up at the front yet, but we did see that a good amount in the Coke Series race on Tuesday night. So whether or not that pans out to function and take form the same way it did, we'll find out. You've got room to do it here on the front straightaway because the apron runs about 2 or 3 lanes underneath the line there that designates the apron and separates it from the banking. But I'll be curious to see how that side of things pans out amongst these top 20.
And remember, Caleb, you can pass below that line. It's not an official rule by any stretch that, you can pretty much go down there and advance your position, even though it's a no-no in the real world. Here, where there are no in-race admins, you can pretty much do what you want down there.
Yeah, kind of an honor rule there. And even up at the top, there's a little bit of room. I mean, got to keep in mind this place is a lot more narrow than Daytona Talladega, but you see right now Seth the Merchant kind of testing out that top lane just a little bit, seeing if that's going to be a viable strategy for these guys. And I mean, really right now, it really is such a mini super speedway of its own type of thing. So, looking around right now, I think there is room to run 3 wide if you want. And you see Seth the Merchant's really committed now to trying to make that work, but it's going to take a little bit of work.
Easier to start 3 wide on fresher tires, James, than it is once you get into a run, because watching some C Open earlier today here from Atlanta in these trucks is as you get into a run, as the tires start to age, these things are a handful to get into the corners, especially when you're in a pack.
I did say that tires in relation to how you set your strategy, I think, don't matter all that much, but being able to control your truck as these tires wear definitely will. Everyone's going to have the same general issue. You're going to lose the handle on your truck as the tires age. We did see tire wear on Tuesday night. We're going to see it again tonight. So you will have to be smart in how you drive this race, but everybody's probably going to be coming in around the same time during green flag pit stops. So, and there's not really much advantage, I think, that you get in splitting this race 50-50 if you come down by yourself, because the draft is significant enough with these trucks that you'll lose more time running by yourself with fresh tires than you would if you stuck with a pack and ran old tires that didn't handle as well. Other thing I noticed here early on in this race, look at the 3 drivers up in that 3rd lane on the outside. Seth the Merchant leads that group for Altus Esports, but then behind him, Logan Clampett, Ray Alfalla. You talk about the experience amongst that top 3. It might be a small group, but if there are 3 drivers that might have the ability to convince everybody else to go all the way up there and make that 3rd line work, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find 3 other drivers in this field better suited for that than the ones running up there now.
Drivers with experience making their way toward the front, and that's typically how things work here at the plate tracks. Still a long way to go. As I mentioned at the top, a 100-lap race. Only 7 laps are complete, so still a long way to go. Here from Atlanta, 3 wide, Larry Pace in the middle. Up on the outside, it's Andrew Navarro jumping from the middle to the top side. He's got Seth the Merchant behind him.
And another interesting dynamic to watch out for here tonight is, again, with how narrow this racetrack is. It's not like a Daytona Talladega in the sense, you know, dirty air is a big factor here, and you're already starting to hear it was from this group of guys that's now ventured up to the top side. You see with Andrew Navarro now challenging for the lead, going 3 wide here. But all of them had to lift because, you know, with that truck in front of you, dirty in your wake, that truck was going to get tight if you just matted it and had it full throttle throughout the entire corner. So you do have to drive this truck a little bit, even though they have increased the banking with the repave.
3 wide. Not for long, though, because, Navarro's still up on that outside line. Phillip still down low. And the middle now kind of falling apart as those trucks in the middle just sort of backed out of town. Larry Pace among them with Logan Clampett as well. I believe that is at least in the middle line. With custom numbers turned off, it's somewhat difficult to figure out who is who. Nonetheless, we know the guy out in front, Agnell Phillip. He's going to bring Joel Blewett right with him.
Blewett's there. Eric Royce is sitting in that middle lane, which is now the top lane, as DeMerchant will drop in behind him. And then you've got Alfalla. Meanwhile, look at the move there from Joel Blewett to go to the outside. So now he'll pace that second lane. And I don't know how much we're going to see a 3rd lane and a 2nd lane, but early on, I think that's worth noting. You see DeMerchant now popping to the outside to create 3 lanes, and then sometimes he'll duck back in and be second. So as I watch DeMerchant in particular, this now becomes a question of trying to figure out whether or not he wants control of a lane or whether or not he just wants to be up near the front. I think there are schools of thought which would lead you to both, and I think there are valid reasons for picking each of those 2 options. Just curious to see which one Seth the Merchant values more.
How about here at the front? We talked about Blake McCandless starting way out back in the middle of nowhere. He has caught the top of the field. He is running right now in position number 11, 3 wide on the outside with Logan Clampett and Michael P. Frisch.
And I've been watching Blake these last few laps here, and he has really been favoring this high side. He was using that middle lane kind of as just like a passing lane, and then when he had the opportunity to catch the tail end of Ray Alfalla's draft right here, he decided to hop up on board with them. Now he's going to kind of go in between these 2 of Alfalla and Larry Pace, I think. But overall, it's been fun to watch him crawl his way up through the field and starting to notice a little bit now a small breakaway almost where behind Andrew Navarro now it's Zach Nichols on back is kind of just wanting to run single file, maybe in an attempt not to completely lose the draft here.
It's just like every plate track I've ever seen on the sim. You've got guys aggressive, 2 and 3 wide at the front, and then behind them, it's a choo-choo train of cars or trucks in this case along the bottom of the racetrack, just clinging to the pack but staying far enough behind or they can avoid any carnage. And with that dog leg on the front straightaway, it's not traditional to any super speedway that we run on, James. And these trucks just seem out of control trying to make it through the bends on the front stretch.
I think the question I have with regards to what Caleb just talked about is whether or not that really makes much of a difference here, because we saw at the end of the race on Tuesday night, it was clean for about 80 laps, and then the last 20 were just carnage and wrecks and accidents left, right, and center. So maybe you save yourself a little bit and you're maybe out of the way of some wrecks if you're a little bit further back. But I almost think with the way things played out, maybe if it were Daytona or Talladega, I'd be more okay with sitting in the back. But here, I think I'd rather be a little bit closer to the front, just because I think it's maybe a little bit safer here than it would be at the plate tracks to avoid wrecks.
Riding on board out the back window of our leader, Agnell Phillip. Got back to a regular style camera now. Phillip has led just about every single lap. Riding around the bottom feeding around this Atlanta track. Lukomsky right behind him, blew it on the outside with help from Eric Royce. That's your top four. Just back to double wide now for the first 6 or 7 rows.
And just monitoring lap times right now, especially back through the pack, looking right now, best laps for most of these guys are somewhere in the mid 30s, a 30.6, 30.5, somewhere in there. And right now we're above 31 seconds. So there is a marginal bit of tire fall off that we're starting to see here. And I'm wondering when that's really going to start affecting handling. You've seen everybody that was on that really top lane throughout the corners everywhere. That's really subsided. I think they might just be trying to figure out a spot where they can just ride around for a little bit.
18 laps are complete here from Atlanta. In a sense, it's Atlanta Superspeedway. Let's be honest. Let's stop kidding ourselves here. Nonetheless, here at the front, Phillip still leads. Blewett leading the outside line. Single file, like I mentioned, for the first 6 or 7 rows, and then you get that single file train from here to pretty much the rest of the pack. The entire field within 4.5 seconds. And they're all tucked up in this same pack. Nobody has necessarily lost the draft up to this point.
The other question worth asking as I look at this front pack is if Agnell Phillip is going to pace this field on the inside lane throughout this green flag run, he will inevitably burn more fuel as the lead truck in this line than everyone else around him. He will need to come down pit road for fuel sooner than everyone else around him. And will his need and the likely earlier pit stop that he makes in relation to everybody else, how does that affect their strategy if, you're Eric Royce, or you're Michael Frisch, or you're Larry Pace, or you're someone who's been running the draft a little bit further back where you don't have to come in as early?
Let's meet let's see. I guess technically the 5th member of our broadcast team, since we talked with Blake first with limited time in pre-race, but nonetheless, to the fan zone we go, and the expert, Justin Malullo.
Thank you, Jacob. Hello, everybody, and I got to say that the Atlanta Superspeedway is definitely a different challenge for a lot of these drivers. We're all used to Atlanta and saving tires, and that's still going to be a thing tonight. I really do feel like tires are going to be some part of the strategy, whether it's 2 tires, 4 tires, no tires. Basically, it's going to be a one-stop race with as big as these fuel cells are, unless we do get a caution at some point, but for right now, it's been pretty tame. Driving around on this track, I was doing a little bit of test drive earlier just to see what it's all about, and it is going to be incredibly difficult to get on pit road for sure. That is one thing that I am definitely going to keep my eye out for. If I'm these guys, I'm probably going to want to wait to pit, but waiting to pit could be a disadvantage with tires. So I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. If we're going to get a caution tonight, if we're going to see different types of strategies as far as who pits it when, if we're going to get that caution when they do eventually have to pit. I'm hoping it stays green. I'm hoping we can see some strategies play out, but so far it's been a good race.
That it has. 24 complete here when they get to the start-finish line this time, and we'll see how they do it as far as strategy. Caleb, I know you saw the same thing I did there while we were talking with Justin a couple laps ago. A little bit of a trip through the field from car 42.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, as to what Justin was referring to, Andrew Navarro there, he tried the top side, just testing the waters a little bit, seeing if he could get something going, as he did earlier in this run. But as soon as he stepped up there, I mean, the tail end of that truck just completely stepped out on him, and it really is telling as to why they've fallen into this middle lane and have wanted to hang around there more, because right now these trucks so far, 26 laps into this run, are just not going to be able to handle themselves in a lineup there at this point.
Have to wait and see how things progress here from Atlanta. Just past 2:40 in the afternoon. The track is hot. The track is slick, and the drivers right now doing the best they can. 25 laps complete from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Agnell Phillip leads at the quarter mark. We'll see if he can lead the remaining 3 quarters here from Atlanta. We're back after this on FTF.GG. Back here from Atlanta, Agnell Phillip still your leader. 30 laps are complete here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Race 3 of round 1 of the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series. Jacob Pitts, James Pike, Caleb Hoffman with you. Justin Malillo in the fan zone for us. Zach Johnson producing. As the wait for pit strategy continues, I know Justin talked about, you could pit early, but it's going to be hectic. Maybe the best thing is to just wait for a caution, because they can make it more than half the distance to the end on a tank of fuel here. I know who you are, James. Sorry. Brain is still shot after calling hockey for 6 straight days. Nonetheless, field makes their way through 3 and 4, and it's been the Agnell Phillip show here at the front.
I thought the idea was to not try and replicate I Know Who You Are instead of doing it more often, but I have that one.
Fully embraced it. I'm sorry.
That's fair. Embracing chaos. That's what we do in March, right? March Madness. Thing. You have something to that effect. So, but yes, again, it's the fuel numbers for Agnell Phillip. It's what are the rest of the drivers in this lead pack thinking of in terms of strategy? What is their game plan? Is there room for a game plan? Can you really deviate from the mean all that much, or are you just stuck to coming down pit road with everybody else when it happens? That's questions that I'm asking now, it almost feels like there's not really much strategy that you can throw into this at this point. And I also don't necessarily see too much room for strategy to play a factor later on. I think this really is going to be about where you place your truck on this racetrack and how you can gain track position to have something to work with when it matters most towards the end of the race.
Let's take a look back through the field just a moment if we can. Briar LaPrade is somewhere out here on the racetrack. Your winner from 2 weeks ago at Las Vegas. Back in 23rd right now, just riding the storm out. Kept back to him back in mid-pack if we can. Maybe. Excellent. All right, Agnell Phillip continues to lead.
Yeah, looking back up right now, Eric Royce just got cycled out of this front group. Blake McCandless, Seth the Merchant, and Ray Alfala all took it all the way up to the top side, and it was really quite interesting because this pack, these last 5-10 laps, they have been having to lift on entry here as to not slide the car all the way up to that third lane, or slide the truck, excuse me, but reminiscent of old Atlanta in just a little bit in that you do need some car control at this point in the race, because if you're just mindlessly out there riding behind somebody and you go full throttle, not only will you get tight on entry, but that thing could also snap around on you.
You mentioned about tires giving out. Times have fallen off a good half second to a second since the drop of the green flag. So you're exactly right. Drivers are having trouble with grip right now on the racetrack.
And we talked about that a little bit earlier on. We said that tires would fade and that everybody was going to lose the handle on these trucks. So I'm not surprised. It's the same thing that happened on Tuesday night. Drivers talked about how they were just losing grip, that the cars weren't handling nearly as well as they did at the start of the race. And as fast as these drivers appear to be going, let's emphasize the fact that you do have to lift in order to hold your line, especially if you're running in the draft behind someone. And that's true whether or not you're racing in the Cup car or the Xfinity car or these trucks. Every single one of the national level series that have cars in iRacing that you can run here, you have to lift center of the corner in order to stay up high or down low. It is not a full-blown, straight-up blast it and hit the gas for the whole way around sort of racetrack. I don't know if Justin's going to take on this, but I feel like it resembles the 87s just a hair in that way. When you take those cars to Daytona and Talladega, where you have to lift on corner entry a bit, it's not quite the same here, but the same principle of almost being able to run full throttle, but not quite, I think definitely applies.
You know, they call this place Daytona in a can, James. It is definitely a smaller type of super speedway racing. It's a different type of super speedway racing, and it does bring the tire wear into effect. So it's, yeah, I would say that those races on the older surfaces with the 87 cars where the tires would wear out and you'd have to watch the tire wear, and it definitely does resemble it to a point. I don't think it's as fun to drive, to be honest with you, but whether it's these trucks, the Xfinity cars, the next gen cars, that is something that people are going to have to take into effect. I mean, heck, I did a league race last night, and I thought my strategy was perfect. I took 2 tires. The guy in front of me didn't take any tires, and we fell straight to the back, and that was the difference. Tires are probably going to matter here. The strategists are going to be trying to figure out whether it's going to be, I mean, at this point, they're going to fill up, so I've got to imagine that 4 tires is going to be the call, but what if we get that late race yellow? You never know.
Drivers do have 3 sets of tires behind the pit wall, so it's possible here that they decide just to take 2 if we get a late race caution, but I'd imagine most would decide just instead to take 4 and fuel. Nonetheless, 42 laps are complete. This race is flying by. 8 laps to halfway. Joe Blewett trying to mount a charge up on the outside, your pole sitter, but Agnell Phillip in that inside line continues to hold its own.
See right there, a good shove from Seth the Merchant there to poked the nose out of Blewett just a little bit, trying to take the lead here. And again, this is just such an interesting racetrack when they even announced the reconfiguration here. I mean, I don't think anybody kind of knew what to expect, but it really is a hybrid of old Atlanta and a super speedway in that, these cars aren't reaching speeds that you see at Daytona Talladega. You're going, 185, 190, 200 at all times. Here you really do hover around a 175 ish range, give or take 5 miles per hour at any point. And that, plus with how small it is, it really is just a hybrid kind of amalgamation of these two beasts that makes it, I think, one of the most unique tracks that we're going to travel here on the schedule.
Down the back straightaway, side by side at the front, you ride on board. Pretty much off the B post there from Blake McCandless. He's up 27 spots since the drop of the green flag. By far the biggest mover of the race. The biggest loser right now, well, Boyd Hogan. He's dropped 17 spots, started 17th. He's at the back, 34th out of the 35 on the racetrack.
I like what Blake is doing here a lot, because I think as I replay Tuesday night in my head and watch the way this race is playing out, if there's one thing that I really do think is going to matter towards the end of the race, it's track position, and having track position before everyone tries to make that land rush towards the end of this race to get track position. I like being on a slightly alternate strategy to try and get up towards the front earlier rather than later, just because I think it's going to be so much more difficult. I think you go to Denny Hamlin and what he said about the real-life cars in the Cup Series on Action Detrimental, where it's going to be really difficult with this current package on super speedways and even tracks like Atlanta to climb your way through the field and go from 17th to first in a matter of 5 laps. I don't think you can do that anymore, as we have drivers down at pit road.
Oh, and that ain't going to work. Zach Nichols is spinning on pit road. And he's going to get hit, maybe? No, they just missed him diving to pit boxes. Zach Nichols missed pit entry by a mile, dipped the right side tires in the grass, looped it around, and somehow Botafuco and another managed to avoid the carnage by diving straight to pit boxes. So closing it on halfway. Here's Nichols, overshoots it. Everybody else makes it to pit road just fine. And you see the two trucks diving toward pit wall just to evade Nichols as he throws it back into gear and gets it rolling. Nobody pitted this most recent time by the field off turn 2.
Yeah, and again, not to pat myself on the back there, but didn't someone pre-race talk about how important it would be here if we went wire to wire, or at least got to the green flag pit stops without a yellow? And here we are, and Zach Nichols again can't have that, because now not only does he lose all that time, but he has no drafting partners down there on pit road. He's going to lose multiple laps, and in all honesty, he's probably out of contention for this race now.
Yeah, he got a penalty either for speeding or drop kicking the cone, perhaps both. Let's see. He hit 65 at the line, so yeah, that's going to be a 2-for-1 sale there for Zach Nichols. He's still in the box now for more than a minute. He did take tires and everything, but it's going to be a long stay for Zach Nichols. He's going to fall several laps down. That's the 3rd lap he's going down. He may go down another by the time he gets out on the racetrack because he's got no drafting help.
Cross flags here when they get back to it, by the way. We have hit the halfway point, actually, last time by, rather. So we are in the second half of tonight's race in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series on FTF.GG, and I am keeping a very close eye on Agnew Phillip. Now, Justin, you think that a lot of these drivers are likely coming down to pit road soon? What do you think the difference is between when Phillip will have to come down versus everyone else in that pack?
Honestly, James, it might be a fire sale here in about, 5 laps, anywhere in between now and then. Nobody wants to be in what that situation was with Zach Nichols in that group, because everybody in that group is now worse for wear because of what just happened. Nobody wants to be in that. The more trucks that you put on that pit road, the more likely something like that is going to happen. So I feel like everybody's waiting till the last minute, and then everybody's going to all pit at the same time, and then we might get 31 trucks on pit road. It's going to be interesting here because I really do think like nobody wants to be caught in pit road and get caught a lap down.
Very likely. Here comes DeMerchant around the outside. Saw Blewett take the lead from the outside, and now DeMerchant has McCandless all over him. Ray Alfala up there as well. At the outside line, this is the best it's looked all race long. And the drivers up top are rolling their way to the front. Logan Clampett makes the first call to pit road on this lap. James Holzer will join him. Watch the trucks not in this lead pack. Agnell Phillip now makes the call. He is second on the inside line. Look at the inside line. Back up as they make their way off turn 4. No contact for now, and everybody is going to lock up the tires to get onto pit road, but no black flags. So the 6 trucks that take it down for service.
And just a great job by everybody there, but back up at this lead pack, you see Seth DeMerchant now dips down to the inside with that opened up with Agnell Phillip. And looking at everybody else right now, you got to think now they're going to try to pit. You see Joel Blewett now comes down, and he doesn't have many takers. Oh, and he's going to spin and barely avoid contact again like Nichols.
Blaze Crawford, though, gets hit. He gets a black flag for speeding on entry. Blewett does not get a black flag. The other 2 trucks that enter with them as well are fine. Frisch, LaPrade, and Moore going to be pitting this time by. Looks like Blake McCandless and Seth DeMerchant may be the only 2 that are going to stay out. Matheson's coming in, washes up the racetrack. Oh, man, this isn't good. 2 drivers miss it. Make it 4. More sliding onto pit road. The 23 is around. That's Kenny Humpy. Sean English is mowing the grass. He's almost going to come back up into traffic on the racetrack through the grass. He keeps it pointed straight, but Sean English about mows down some of those guys that have already made their green flag pit stops. The leaders are in turn number 3. We'll see if DeMerchant, yes, he will pit. Here come pretty much the rest of the leaders onto pit road. No incident for these 3. You still got roughly 10 drivers that have yet to stop. Sean English is included in that list. I'd imagine he's going to pit this time. But Mercurio, Tucker, Peffer, Collins, Danson, Hoffman, Nichols, Hogan, Oliveira have yet to make their stop. I would think it's going to come this time by. The field through 3 and 4. Faster trucks, lap trucks to the outside. And here they all come. Now's the fire sale for everybody that's left. And they get onto pit road without any issues. No black flags for them. 3 more will stay out. Danson, Hoffman, Oliveira. And looks like they're going to come this time by.
Maybe above all that, we saw some of the drivers get into trouble entering pit road, but I want to know how much missing pit road hurts Jake Matheson and Cody Terlindi. Those are the 2 that had to abort their entry to pit road a few laps ago, and now they're about 2 or 3 seconds back.
Danson missed it. So did Collins. Hoffman did the same thing. Oliveira did as well. They just followed each other wide. And Danson almost wound up back in front of traffic again. Very similar to what we saw. Now he's right in the thick of the field, which is at speed. Black flag for English on the second pit stop. Dalton Collins has a black flag. And Danson's going to try it again here. Eric Royce is currently the guy that's going to come back around to be your race leader. Danson's still being scored as your leader right now. Here he comes, and he has plenty of room to get this down to pit road speed this time by. And he makes it without any issues. Catastrophe on green flag pit stops, but we managed to stay under green. And this time by, Eric Royce is going to take the lead away, or really, here comes Buttafuoco to the outside.
Oh, Buttafuoco got a bump from James Holzer there. That nearly got more squirrely than he would have liked with 40 laps to go. But I look at this group here, drivers that we need to pay attention to, especially because they've done a nice job making their way through this field. James Holzer up from 16th to 3rd. Ray Alfala is going from 19th to 7th. But at the same time, 5 of your top 10 started within the top 10 tonight. Eric Royce, Larry Pace, Andrew Navarro, Agnel Phillip, and Michael P. Frisch. It suggests to me they value track position maybe a little bit more than most. Jacob?
Lots of trucks in this lead pack now, and they all seem to be ready to race. At the back of this pack, couple of trucks moving up, trying to make a third line. Up there, Logan Clampett, as well as Brad Maher. They're making things roll up on the outside, 3 wide, and are trying to charge toward the front. Another truck upstairs will join them. That's Ray Alfalla. He's, I'd say, pretty good on the sim, and right now, he thinks there's no better way than to go to victory lane here in round 1 and try and get himself back to the Coke Series where he's a 4-time champ. Here he comes, looking for the lead, 3 wide for second.
And that's exactly what I've noticed on the flip side of green flag pit stops here. These guys are noticeably more aggressive in their moves and trying to get up to the front at this point. Ray Alfalla really with Logan Clampett. These two feel like they've been paired together all race. And here they come now, 3 wide on the outside in turn number 3, challenging for the lead here. And you got to think, past halfway at this point with laps just kind of ticking down at this point. How aggressive are these guys going to get? Larry Pace with a big move right there as well. You got to think a caution might be somewhere in the cards in these upcoming laps.
3 wide for the lead. A little jittery there on the inside line. And the issue now at this point has to be making sure that bumps are clean. You give a guy a bad push, and with the amount of trucks that are in this lead pack, you've got 16 trucks within roughly half a second. It's going to be calamity up at the front, and several drivers are going to wind up involved in the crash. 3 wide still. Royce on the bottom, Alfalla in the middle, Clampett up top.
Biggest thing I remember hearing from the drivers on Tuesday night, and I suspect it will probably apply to tonight, just the same, is that no one really wanted to be in the middle lane. The inside lane and the outside lane were the preferred groups to be in. So if you're Ray Alfalla, do you love where you are? Are you happy because you have someone like Daniel Botafuco behind you who's shown plenty of speed throughout this season so far? Or would you rather be on the inside or up top trying to marshal one of those lanes?
Well, he's clear from the middle if he wants the top right now. He stays with Botafuco instead of going up with Clampett, another former Coke Series driver up there against the outside wall. Alfalla led at the line, out in front just by a nose. Here comes Royce fighting back on the bottom, side by side for the lead, coming to 34 laps to go here from Atlanta.
Mahar scratched the wall just a little bit there out of turn 2 and really dissipated that line, set the Merchant, bailed, and everybody else behind him kind of scrambled around. That's opened the door now for Blake McCandless up on the high side. And another interesting thing here to note is, as you were alluding to, Jacob, if we do get a wreck up here with these leaders, I feel like it's going to involve most of them because besides this bottom line of about 3 trucks, there's just nowhere to go if something happens in front of you.
Unless it happens maybe on the front straightaway, just with how wide it is now with the reconfiguration. It was a lot narrower on the old version of the racetrack, but they've since widened it out. There's more apron down there, and that gives drivers more room to go. And we may see them use that as the race goes on, especially coming to the flag, trying to find an advantage. Back to 3 wide, though, at the front of the field. Alfalla in the middle, Royce on the bottom. Clampett now up top, and he has drawn himself back into this picture. 3 wide off turn 4.
Really big moves from Logan Clampett on the outside all night long, and a really nice job by him to marshal that outside lane as well as he has and be consistently quick up there. And then you consider that Blake McCandless is up there in that high line with them, and we run into the same theme that I think when Brad Bahar is also up there too. That outside lane has not been used all that much, but the drivers that run in that outside lane tend to be some of the most experienced, and I think they're seeing something that might make that lane a little bit nicer for them to run in than some of the other places.
Still 3 wide at the front. Royce down on the bottom, leading at the line. Alfalla staggered to the outside. Then there's Clampett up there as well. Now Larry Pace starting to emerge down on the bottom. Remember, he won top split at Daytona. Contact, and Pace gets squirrely. 3 wide, almost 4 wide for the moment going into turn number 3. The inside line collapses. Pace drops back, loses 2-3 spots, make it a whole lot more. Alfalla pushed through the middle by Botafuco. As I mentioned, bad pushes can be lethal. Alfalla clear to the front.
Just a result there of, as you said, a bad bump, and I think Larry Pace was kind of testing out that apron a little bit, and Agnell Phillip just, again, on the bumper at the wrong time. But Eric Royce, the leader of this bottom lane, has done a fantastic job of kind of recovering from that for having no help for as long as he did, to be, once again, right back up here with Ray Alfala now challenging for the lead once again. Great recovery there. But Ray Alfala with this middle line, it's really puzzling to me, honestly. I thought he would have wanted to stay with Logan Clampett, but I guess those two have gone their separate ways at this point, because Alfala has just been glued to the front bumper of Daniel Buttafuoco.
Royce back to the front on the bottom. Pace trying to get himself clear for second, as now the middle and the top side have fallen back just a touch for now. Interesting that the contact on the inside line killed it and then suddenly revived it. Here they are now, stronger than ever on the bottom. Alfala stuck now, fighting for second.
Also seems like that outside lane, those two outside lanes in particular, might be a little bit thinner than they've been. It almost seems like we've got more drivers trying to drop to the back and avoid the chaos, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but there are less trucks in this lead group now than I've seen at any point since they came out for pit stops. What a move from James Holzer there, just on the edge of the screen. He just about got turned going up to the outside lane, but worth noting that it's a little bit more spacious up towards the pointy end of this field.
Oh, Mayhar tags the wall.
Yeah, Mayhar got pushed up there to the fence. He's going to lose a lot of time and speed up against that outside wall. He's got the highest I rating out of everybody on the sim that is running here. Number one in the field for that reason. And he has struggled to kind of get the ball rolling down the stretch. 26 laps to go here from Atlanta, still side by side at the front. Larry Pace, you saw the great move that he made to jump up to the outside, and he is trying to pull this middle line along. He's got the legend behind him in Ray Alfala, Royce and Phillip on the bottom side. We're coming to 25 laps to go here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Will the field survive for 20 more laps around the 1.5 mile racetrack? We'll find out after this here on FTF.GG. We're back here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. You saw him up at the front when we left you. We come back and he's nowhere to be found. Ray Alfala is now leading the third line on the racetrack. What happened? Well, Larry Pace got loose, came up in front of him. They about crashed. They were almost 4 wide. Alfala got the worst end of the deal, fell all the way outside the top 10, top 15, and now he's got the winner from last race, Brian LaPrade, on the tailgate of that truck, and they're trying to work their way back toward the front now with 20 to go.
Can you make it all the way back up there? Because we've seen...
in the wall!
Oh, trouble a little bit further back. I think that's
Joseph
and Cody Terlindi who got into it and lost all that track position. And it goes back to a point we made earlier. If you lose track position, how much time does it take to gain back what you lost, given how difficult it's been to pass for this track racing, much like a super speedway?
And once again, Ray Alfala, short end of the stick. That outside line just completely collapsed. Lap trucks are ahead, and it's a good old pack of them, led by Blaze Crawford. This is the penalty/miss pit road group. Collins, Danson, Crawford. Not in that order. So Collins leads, then it's Danson. No, I'll get this right eventually. Crawford leads, then Collins, Nichols now, Danson, Hoffman, Oliveira. And then there's the rest of the field right behind. 18 laps to go, side by side, still for the lead with Royce and Buttafuoco. Buttafuoco trying to roll this middle line.
And back up at the front, Logan Clampett really trying to get this top lane back going once again. He's going to have Blake McCandless now to his outside. And an interesting thing to note here, we were focusing on that tire wear aspect in that first run, and now looking around, the oldest tires on these trucks right now, it's going to be your 1-2 of Eric Royce, Daniel Buttafuoco, and Larry Pace as well. And I think right now, again, that was why that outside lane just got decimated, was because Larry Pace tried that middle line and then was just blocking while he had these faster trucks behind him. And, an interesting thing now is, Larry Pace, Buttafuoco, and Royce all being up inside that about that top 5 right now. Do we see them just get left out to dry, or are you just forced to work with them because they're up front and you got to work with these guys who have the track position?
Right now, there is just no working together with anybody. As soon as that outside line tries to get something rolling, it dissolves, it falls apart. Here comes Larry Pace to the outside. Not sure he wanted to go up there, but the tires kind of forced him to, or the lack thereof, on that Ford truck. Clampett kind of bumps him back down, and once again, the outside line fizzles, the energy is gone, and Larry Pace has decapitated this outside line not once but twice now.
Everybody behind Pace trying to make 3 lanes. Everybody in front of Pace pretty decidedly down to 2. I think you can get a 3rd lane back. I just think it's very clear that people don't want to work with Larry Pace because he's got older tires, and it seems like a lot of drivers around him are aware of that, which would then explain why he's been blocking so much, because I think he recognizes that if he loses the track position now, he's probably not going to get it back.
And he can't afford to have another bad race. He had one 2 weeks ago at Las Vegas after winning at Daytona. Last week is his drop, at least for now, or last race 2 weeks ago. He does not want to have another low point effort here tonight at Atlanta, but he is running out of laps to stay at the front, and the drivers behind him running out of patience. That Ford truck's going to end up in the fence if he's not careful.
Yeah, and I mean, he just does not have the tires to hold this middle lane right now, and we've seen it consistently out of turn number 2. That Ford truck just drifts up to the wall, and if he keeps being indecisive like he is, where he goes down and blocks that middle lane, once again, I agree with you, he is going to end up in the wall. And you see now, Holzer gets up in the wall as well, and that's going to kill that outside lane even more. Blake McCandless just has nowhere to go, stuck behind that 16, and that's what happens here at Atlanta with how narrow it is, just nowhere to go.
And lost so much speed just by brushing the outside wall. A little bit of damage to the right side of that 16. Meanwhile, at the front, still wheel to wheel. Royce on the bottom, Buttafuoco up top with now 12 laps to go. Laps continue to wind down. The 3rd line, poof, gone, disintegrated. We'll see if anybody can bring it back.
Another question.
Contact! Ray Alfala just got hit by Holzer on his outside. It was a bump from Blake McCandless that sent the 16 sideways. They do a great job of saving it, but we almost have our first caution of the day here at Atlanta.
It's down the back straightaway. Holzer made contact with Alfalo. Alfalo onto the apron, but he keeps it pointed straight, and a rough go. Oh, contact! In the wall! Goes Blewett! Larry paces around. 4 or 5 trucks involved. Where's the caution? There it is. Brian LaPrade is in it. Perpendicular to the field is Pace, and the first caution comes with 11 laps to go. Larry Pace's truck is destroyed. Blown motor for him. It was the inside line where the checkup happened, right around your top 2 on the bottom, with Agnell Phillip and the
Getting
25 of
into
Eric Royce.
Yep, that's exactly what I was about to point out, that all started because Agnell Phillip got in the back of Eric Royce and got Royce loose, so Royce checked up, and then there was an accordion effect behind Royce, so Phillip checked up, Michael Frisch checked up and tried to go high to avoid running into the back of them, and as he went high, Joel Blewett came to his outside, and there was nowhere for Blewett to go, so Frisch bumps Blewett into the wall, and then everything goes on from there. You'll see it here in the center of your screen. There's the bump from Frisch to Blewett, and then Pace goes around, and it's on from there.
Man, oh man. Calamity. Not a ton of damage, but a good number of trucks involved. Pit road is open, and everybody's staying out inside the top 10. Blewett, the first one to pit. He's got damage. Breyer's going to pit as well. At this point, if you've got damage, you're pitting. Ray Alfala, Alex McCullum will pit. I don't think they really have much damage. Big decision from the leaders. They've got plenty of tires in the box, and instead they decide to collectively stay out. Let's talk with our in-race reporter here, Blake McCandless. I don't know how you made that wreck. If we can pull up the onboard of Blake navigating through that carnage. How did you make it?
I'm wondering the same thing, Jacob. I saw a little bit of smoke, and initially I thought that was going to be one of those situations where, stuff happens, but it's not a caution. So initially I'm thinking to go high and full throttle it, and then I saw the side of Canada and Larry Pace's truck. So just was able to check up. I may have just nicked James right in front of me there. I think he has a little bit of damage out of that, but overall, I'll ask you, do I have any damage on the nose? I got a call from a driver, but I think it's okay, isn't it?
Let's see. If I go to you and I go to the nose, it looks, if I'll eventually get to the camera, it looks good to me.
All right, sweet. All right, broadcaster's advantage. But yeah, crazy stuff there. Now, this is when this race is going to get just really crazy, because now everybody's going to, be cutting the red line on the in the dog leg and trying to make every move they can. And so we were kind of content there to ride 7th or 8th or so. I made a bad move to the top side when I shouldn't have, and kind of fell back there a little bit. I'm interested to see here if James could keep up. He was a little ill handling before that, and he got a little bit of damage. So. And I don't like restarting here on the inside, but we'll see what happens. It sucks that a couple of North Force trucks looks like they got caught up in that, but Daniel's in first, so we'll try to bring it home for him.
All right, Blake. Well, thanks for your time, and we'll see you here in a bit.
All right.
That is Blake McCandless. Daniel Botafuco is your leader. We'll have a restart with 7 laps to go.
Worth noting in all of this that Alex McCollum in 17th is the first truck on fresh tires. I'm not necessarily convinced that pitting now is going to work, given how much we think track position is going to matter and how much value it is carried throughout the night. But that'll be one worth coming back to, I think, once we get the checkered flag to see how it pans out and whether or not a late stop for 4 tires can make the difference. I would expect you'll probably see him go to the outside and try and work a 3rd lane to gain some spots, but who knows? It'll be worth keeping our eye on.
See how this works out. Botafuco and Royce on the front row for the restart. Into the restart zone. Green flag is in the air. 7 laps to go, and oh man, a horrible restart. Nobody gets going. They're 3 and 4 wide before the start-finish line. One truck has damage on the front end and is clogging up the middle line. That's Kenny Humpy. A lot of damage for him. No black flags, but he falls through the field almost like he missed a shift. Fields off turn 2.
And now you're seeing everybody in the back, as Blake was saying, starting to scramble, and Blake included. I was looking to the high side for one moment, but opts not to take it. Alex McCollum, as Pike predicted, is trying this third lane up here on the fresh tires. I don't know, though, with 7 laps to go, if they have enough time to get around all these guys that stayed out.
Now 6 to go. Royce on the outside line has the help from Phillip up on the top of the racetrack. Here comes Blake McCandless, though. He stayed out. He's trying to make this third line work. Kind of gets the door shut on him by Drew Freinage up on the outside of the racetrack. In that blue, white, and red 24 iRacing machine, McCandless, party of 1 up on the outside.
I think Dominic Lukumski, that third truck on the outside line, might be the linchpin in all of this, especially with regards to how chaotic the finish might be, because I don't think you're going to be able to make a move in the last lap as the third truck in line on the outside and make something happen. But if you go up there and you make it 3 wide earlier, you have a chance. Here comes Alex McCollum with fresh tires on the high side. Right now, he's right there on the rear bumper of Lukumski, so this is the opportunity now. I think if you're going to make a move, this is where it happens.
Coming to 4 laps to go here from Atlanta. If we make the white flag, this race is official. If we crash before the white flag, though, we go into eNASCAR overtime. 3 attempts. Here on the outside, here comes McCollum with some help up on the outside. Will he get squeezed into the wall? No. He's already almost to the outside there of this 27 of Phillip. Still 3 wide. He got the 32 in the middle of Dominic Lukumski.
There he comes right on the outside. This middle lane's getting stacked up, and I think these old tires, they just don't have the corner speed that compares. And now McCollum with Blake McCandless right behind him. He's got as good as a partner as you can get here, and he has Brian Mercurio behind him as well. He's got plenty of support and help, and with 3 to go, he might have just figured out the clue to get into victory lane here if he keeps this up.
McCollum on the outside with fresh tires. Everybody else around him on the old stuff. The next driver to the front that's on fresh tires, Mercurio, 9th, also up on that outside line. 2 laps to go this time by. They got to make it 1 more lap. Still 3 wide at the line. Give it to Daniel Botafuco.
This is the only way this could have worked for Alex McCollum. The fresh tires job also precipitated a move to that outside lane, and he wasn't blocked by anyone coming through the field at all, which allowed him to roll the center of the corner, which you can do on fresh tires. You can hold the gas down a little bit more, and now McCollum might be in the catbird seat as they come to the white flag in Atlanta. 1 lap to go when they come back to the stripe.
McCollum to the middle, Botafuco on the bottom. Here comes McCandless on the outside, 3 wide. White flag in the wind. 1 more lap to go in Atlanta. Who's going to get it done?
Yeah, and McCollum right there left that outside lane. I thought he was going to have a little bit of a struggle trying to get momentum there, but it doesn't seem to matter much. He's playing both of these outside lanes. I think it's going to be him versus Botafuco as they come down the backstretch for the final time. A little bit of contact.
Oh, McCollum gets turned around in front of the field, up into the air and into the catch fence. Crashing behind him on the back straightaway as well. Side by side, here comes Frisch, 3 wide on the apron. They're going to be 3 wide to the start-finish line. And Seth DeMerchant's going to win the race in Atlanta. Seth DeMerchant pulls it out at the line, 6/1000ths of a second over Frisch in a 3 wide photo finish, and once again, another classic Atlanta finish here in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series.
And that all worked because DeMerchant had that outside lane clear after McCollum wrecked and wiped out pretty much the entirety of the second and third lanes. DeMerchant was already getting a run on Botafuco entering turn 3 and just naturally slid up to the high lane where no one else was to take advantage of it and roll the momentum on the top side to go to victory lane in the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series at Atlanta for the first time in 2023.
Man, oh man, DeMerchant gets it done. The first incident coming down the back straightaway was mid-pack. The 29 of Cody Terlindi got up and into the outside wall. They stacked up behind him. It's DeMerchant's teammate, Matt Danson, involved in this as well. The 31 involved as well. You see him in the back here. And they keep it straight for the most part, and then in front of them, McCollum gets turned by the 25 of Eric Royce, and the contact clogs up the rest of the field. McCollum into the catch fence, tailgate first. Brian Mercurio gets launched up against the safer barrier. He didn't even get hit. He just gets flung by the wall itself. There you see the contact. That's McCandless. He blows up. And there you saw the 13 fly by just for a second. The 13 of Mercurio. Here we go. He's third up on the outside line and makes contact. McCandless gets turned. Boing. See ya. Out of the park, home run style, tumbling down the racetrack. Mercurio is still driving, though, and he will cross the finish line. The last car on the lead lap in 25th. McCollum and Royce, the two trucks that kick this whole thing off, they do not make it back to the flag. They finish the first two trucks one lap down.
I think there's a little bit of... I think of Ayrton Senna's famous quote where if you don't go for a gap that exists, you are no longer a racing driver. And I think if you are in control of the lane, as McCollum was, there does have to be some level of understanding that if you leave any sort of opening whatsoever on the last lap, someone is going to try and take it. And there was a little bit of a window for Royce to get in there, and McCollum tried to come back down and make the block, but by the time he did, Royce was already there. The wreck at that point was inevitable. McCollum not exactly happy in chat on server. Implication off of what he says, and I quote, "You should get talent." Yeah, my fault. I would imagine there's a little bit of sarcasm in that voice, but incident there really, really throwing them off. I think for Royce's case in particular, as strong as his season has started, this is a drop is going to hurt.
Results scrolling by on your screen right now. DeMerchant, your winner. Logan Clampett picks up a top 10 in 6th. Brad Maher leading off the rest of your field here, 11th on back. Ray Alfalo, by the way, he fell back to 19th through all of that carnage on the last lap and with the last crash. Before that brought out the caution, you see McCandless back there 23rd. Mercurio somehow able to drive that thing home in 25th. And then the two drivers that kicked it all off there on the last lap, McCollum and Royce, 26th and 27th. LaPrade, 28th. And then your final five back here, Larry Pace, officially the last truck to finish this race. Let's talk with our winner, Seth DeMerchant, who was wedged in traffic coming to the white flag and then on the checkered flag. The C's part, and you're going to victory lane for the first time this season. Take us through that last lap.
Yeah, starting the white flag, I was just kind of trapped bottom there, and I was just content on pushing Dan, trying to get Dan the win. And then they all wrecked beside me. The lane opened on the top, and I just got to apologize to Dan because I drove him off into the corner and got him loose, and that's not how I wanted to beat him. But happy to finally get a win. I just didn't want to do it like that.
I would ask if you're glad to be done with the plate tracks, but the problem is, when we go to Texas in 2 weeks in these trucks, it's pretty much another plate track. So the fourth almost plate track in a row to start the season off. Going into Texas, you've been there a couple times already, though, on the eNASCAR side of things.
Yeah, it'll be pretty packy at the start of the runs, but usually it spreads out the end. And it'll be nice to actually have to lift for the first time in 4 weeks. And just really looking forward to round 2. I feel like I got lucky with the 3 plate tracks at the beginning and have a good amount of points, so we're kind of, I'm just going to be looking to help some of my teammates make round 2 and see what we can do.
He was third in points coming into this race. Seth, congratulations, and we will see you in 2 weeks from Texas.
Thanks.
That is Seth DeMerchant, your winner tonight from Atlanta. With James Pike, it is second place man in town, Michael P. Frisch.
Michael P. Frisch, you were about 8th or 9th coming to the line to start that last lap. Walk us through how you ended up in second and passed 7 cars in the span of about maybe half a turn, if that?
Sticking to the bottom. Just sticking to that bottom, man. I wasn't leaving it for the last 20 laps. I I spotted Gary Tuesday night for Coke, and I told him on every restart, following these green-white checkers is stay on the bottom. It's the safest place on the track. All these wrecks, when they happen, they go up towards the track, so you are physically in the safest place. So we stuck with our instincts, and I can't believe I had a shot at that, man. We had a little bit of damage from that wreck before we got tangled up in, and I think if I didn't have that, we would have had a good old W tonight. But I'll take second.
How nervous were you with that damage? Because it did knock the right front of your truck just a little bit. Were you very concerned or not so concerned? Where was that level once we got that first yellow to sort of set up this final run to the checkers?
I was concerned for about five minutes, but as soon as the green flag kind of came out, it was all eyes focus and just laid down the throttle. I knew it was a little bit of damage, but I don't think it was enough damage because Gary told me it was just the right front fender bunched up, so we just laid our foot down and cruised to a P2. But no, I mean, it was stressful out there all night tonight. I mean, double file, 3 wide sometimes, 8 wide deep throughout the whole entire pack. It's very, very narrow track here, so no mistakes. Make a mistake, one slip up, and the big one happens.
He avoids it all after getting caught up in it a little bit himself and comes away with a podium finish. Michael P. Frisch, P2 at Atlanta.
Can I just thank my guys real quick? I just want to thank North Force Racing. They can't thank those guys enough. We dialed in the setup this past week. Bar Visuals for allowing me to run this beautiful truck every week. If you don't know who he is, Dalen Barr on Twitter. He takes some amazing photography shots of the NASCARs that go around the track. So give him a follow. But other than that, that's all I got.
We stand Dalen Barr in this household. I will second that as we go from Michael P. Frisch to third man on the podium, a familiar face and voice over the course of these last few races in the qualifying series, a testament to his strong start to the year. Caleb Hoffman is with Daniel Botafuca.
Yeah, Daniel, after that final restart, we thought you had it in hand. You held off a strong charge there from McCollum, but just couldn't defend those moves out of turn 4. Any moves you'd really like to have back?
I don't know. I wish I could go back and kind of redo that turn 3, turn 4 exchange there. I don't know exactly what happened there. I mean, I could pull it up right now and just look at it, but we got a little hit in the rear. Going into 3, they all started a wreck. We just got through it, fortunately. And, yeah. And then Seth, I guess I washed up a little bit entering the corner. He may have gotten the air off of me and then hit my bumper there. And then I just hit the pain, lost it, and just didn't quite have enough there for the win. But, oh, man. Well, we're going to get that win one day, man. We're going to get that win. We got second last week. Had a shot at it. We were really close tonight, but I just came 2 spots short. But end game goal, top 70. It's gonna be hard. You know, we got through I would say probably the challenging part of it with the restrictor plate-esque racing. So move on to Texas and go from there.
And I mean, even so, with this points format, P3 is still a great result here. How do you really carry? Again, you said P2 last week and then a podium finish here tonight as well. How do you carry that performance onto Texas and then beyond?
I mean, it's good momentum for sure. Texas is a very different track from this one, obviously, but I don't know, man. Just it's bright side of things, third place. It's a really good finish. You know, I mean, not many people get to say they finished third, top split, and a lot of great guys like Larry and Eric, part of NFR. They should have been up there. They should have been in the top 5 at least, or running for the win, bad things happen to them. So the way I look at it is, there's always another race, a new track, and a new opportunity. So it's going to be something we'll continue to work on. We had a pretty fast truck last year around Texas. Don't know how the weather will change, but before I say anything, just want to say a big thank you to everybody over at North Force Racing for all the help. We kind of started testing a little bit late. Vince March, Frisch, Eric, Zach, Larry, Matt Kemp, Cy Bowen, Carson Bowers. I'm sure I'm missing a couple names. Blake McCandless for coming on this race. Just everybody who's been a part of this great team, and JD Laird on the box as a spotter. all put in a lot of work and a lot of effort with strategy and just trying to figure out how to make these things go fast. And we had a great qualifying piece and a great race piece. So, and want to say a big thank you to everybody over at SRD for sponsoring. And I got to say, though, I know it's off topic, but I love this group. It's a great group that we've got. I'm just fortunate. I'm just very lucky and fortunate to be on such a great team in NFR. It's really thankful.
It's so close to that first win. Daniel Buttafuoco going to avoid the chaos. Has a great run tonight. He finishes P number 3. Jacob?
Thank you, Caleb. And gentlemen, 3 races down, 5 more to go on the season, just like that. And, well, here we are now. We're going to Texas in 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be a little bit different from what we've seen over these last couple of weeks. But we heard Seth talk about it as well, the fact that Texas, it starts out as a plate track, but it'll eventually spread things out as long as we stay green.
Because you do have to lift in 1 and 2. There's just not enough banking to be able to carry all the momentum that you build up down the front straightaways. So it'll be similar in some respects. It'll be different in a few respects. I think the funny thing as I look back on tonight is that this race sort of mirrored how the tournament usually goes in a lot of respects. You had a lot of action and a lot of big news show some muscle early. You had a Cinderella run from Alex McCollum, who nearly played the role of a Princeton or a Furman and got the job done. But in the end, Seth DeMerchant is one of those names that's been there, that's done that, a proverbial top 4 seed, as it were, I think, in this qualifying series field year in, year out. And at the end of the day, you look at some of the names up front and the names of the podium, DeMerchant, Frisch, Buttafuoco. These are drivers that I think we all expect to play a big factor in round 1, in round 2, and if they end up being big names in the conversation of who makes it from the Contender Series to the Coke Series in 2024, would not be shocked to see their names pop up in that conversation either.
No doubt about it. And Caleb, the way things look right now, Seth DeMerchant going to leave here as your championship leader after a rough night for Larry Pace and some others toward the top of the order. At this point, it's too early yet to start locking in guys for that second round. But if Seth can have just some good runs over these next 2-3 weeks, he's going to be in there, and we'll see him in the second round.
Yeah, and everybody did such a great job here tonight. Looking at some of these guys that have shown some muscle, as you said, Pike, early. This pack as a whole really did a fantastic job early on of just that self-preservation aspect of keeping it clean and just surviving, because that's half the battle here at Atlanta or the plate tracks as it is just getting through all the chaos. And, before that last 10 laps or so, we really did a fantastic job of that. Again, it's all just about consistency here and avoiding all that chaos, navigating through the traffic. Again, just half the battle here. So these guys will have a different set of challenges with the schedule upcoming. Texas will be a different challenge for sure, but a challenge nonetheless. And I'm looking forward to seeing who can conquer that racetrack.
Just have to wait and see. 2 weeks' time, you'll see it here on FTF.GG. All right, well, I'm going to go watch Penn State probably losing this first round of the tournament to Texas A&M. We see you in 2 weeks from, not from Atlanta, rather from Texas. 100 laps there from 1.5 miles in the Lone Star State. We're back on Saturday night at 9 o'clock Eastern for the Apex Action Photography 300 in the Bar Visuals FTF Cup Series here from Atlanta. Winstell's at Bristol, Autobahn's at Spa. Simcar returns a week from tonight from Sebring. From all of us here at FTF, for Justin Melillo down on pit road, for Caleb Huffman, James Pike alongside me, I'm Jacob Pitts. Thank you so much for watching. Seth DeMerchant, your winner from Atlanta. We'll see you in 2 weeks from Texas.